Hey, welcome to our archive edition of Chad's Beer Podcast. This episode, I'm talking to Marcus Guiliano, which is really timely because remember last week I talked to Kevin Burns from the Foaming Head, and him and Marcus actually worked together at a restaurant called Aroma Thyme Bistro in Ellenville, New York. I believe it's about an hour, maybe a half hour north of New York City. You know, it's like the southern part of upstate New York. Actually, Marcus owns the restaurant. It's actually one of those really highly acclaimed. It's vegan friendly, but they don't just serve vegan food there. At least not when I went there, which was like 14 years ago. And Marcus started his own channel since then, and he does like a lot of like culinary education type things, health food type things. Just trying to like make people aware of of the dangers of like processed and mass produced food and fast food and all that stuff. I'm not like super familiar with him. But it's funny, him and I are still friends on Facebook. But we haven't talked in a long time, and I haven't watched this episode in a long time. And him and I did a review of Dogfish Head Pangaea, or Pangaea, whatever. And that short will be posting tomorrow, but I'll put a link to everything down there. So check out this archive edition, and next week we should be back with a new episode, and I'll see you then. Hey, welcome to an episode of Interview with a Craft Beer Enthusiast. Today I'm interviewing Marcus Guiliano, who is the owner of Aroma Thyme Bistro.
Yes.
In Ellenville, New York. You guys are kind of like a little, what do they call it? Like an open secret of
yes.
craft beer restaurants in
Hudson Valley.
Yeah, Hudson Valley. It's like you're not down like way down there by the city, but you're not up with us in Albany.
In the Capital District.
Yeah.
We're equidistant between New York City and Albany.
Yeah, and I haven't really known you, but I've known you through Kevin. Through like the last 2 years. And you really know your beer, and you've been doing YouTube and Blogspot, really enthusiastically advocating for craft beer and all that.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll let you kind of speak for yourself here. I mean, tell the viewers about your restaurant and your beer selection.
Sure. You know, we're a small restaurant, 65 seats here in the Hudson Valley. We're in a village called Ellenville, which is near New Paltz, Kingston, and I work the business. You know, I'm here every day. I personally oversee everything, so I really like to understand what I'm selling. I want to really be able to endorse what I'm selling. It's hard to endorse mass conglomerates and and mass produced stuff. I'm a professionally trained chef.
Right.
So food to me was always the first thing. You know, I worked at some really awesome places and got some great experience in Europe and as well as here in the States. And so I learned food first.
Right.
Intense chef. And then as I opened my own restaurant, that's when really the wine and the beer really came into play. And I was really insistent from the very beginning. No, we didn't have many selections. When we first opened, we had maybe 20, 30 beer selections when we first opened. Now we're up to over 200.
Wow.
So I didn't have many, but we always had quality. It was always about quality, local beers, quality, good craft beers. And the list sort of grew and grew from there. And I remember we reached 50 beers at one point, then 70 beers. And the more customers embraced that, the more we kept building that list.
Right.
Because if customers weren't embracing it, we really wouldn't have the extent that we did, but customers love it, and we get people that come from all over for our cask beer night, which is once a month. Our tap lines are always changing. It's always, one in, one out. We'll bring the beer back. It might take 6 months to bring something back like Omegang Wit, which is a great summer beer.
Yeah.
I'll do a couple runs of that in the summertime, but then it won't be back again until the following year.
Right. So you're constantly rotating your selection. It's
constant rotation.
Yeah.
The bottles, not as much. The bottles are always getting new things in, and that's why the list keeps growing and growing because every time one of these new guys comes out with a new collaboration, an anniversary edition, I have to have it. Yeah. I got to jump on it. So there's several beers that are not even on my list yet that are just sitting here, just waiting for.
It's like a collector mentality.
Exactly. It's like I'm collecting these, and it's wonderful. And when I get down to my last couple bottles of something, it's like, oh no, it's like, it's getting ready to go.
I noticed you had a 2-page spread in your menu of just Dogfish Head.
Dogfish, almost 18 different Dogfish beers.
Yeah, and a whole page of Stone, Unibrew, and Omegang.
Yep, whole page of Omegang. awesome stuff. It's nice to be able to feature one brewery on a page like that with all their beers and get into the descriptions. The breweries love that. So we do that with some of the breweries that we stock more selections from them.
Do you guys do a lot of beer tasting dinners?
We do beer dinners once a month. We do 5 courses, 5 or more beers, and it's $49, which I feel is a great bargain for what we're providing.
Yeah, because a lot of them are like 65 or so.
Stone Brewing, when Dennis came in from Stone, we had 8-9 beers.
Yeah.
We had 3 verticals, 3 different years of verticals, 08, 09, and or 07, 08, 09.
Right.
That we had. Dennis was like, "This is the first time we've done this in a long time." He goes, this is something we really don't. I haven't seen." Dennis is a Stone rep. He goes, "This is something one restaurants just don't do."
To get into more history side, and this is something I ask everybody, is kind of, it's like a 2-part question: is when did you start drinking beer, and when did you start drinking good beer?
That's started drinking beer. I was saying in high school you have a couple beers. This is what high schoolers do, and nothing major though, because I really wasn't into drinking. But that's when I was introduced to like Coors Extra Gold.
Right.
We thought that was it. I remember that gold can was really flashy, and I was like, "Oh, Coors Extra Gold." And then as becoming a chef and cooking, I started cooking at 19 in a kitchen, and I really, all the cooks would drink. So you go out and have a beer afterwards, and I remember I was working in Colorado. I was working at the Broadmoor Hotel. Colorado's the capital for craft, for microbreweries in the country, and we went to one of the local breweries. And of course, there was no Coors Extra Gold on tap, and there was nothing. There was no Heineken. There was nothing like that. So it kind of forced me to try something. And honestly, by chance, I ordered an IPA because it was the easiest thing to pronounce.
Right.
He goes, "Okay, I'll have the IPA." I didn't know have the Weiss and this and that, and just IPA. Okay, cool. I'll order the IPA. It was easy to say, and I got a hold of it, and I was like, "Wow, I like this.
Yeah.
It's got some body to it, much more body than I ever used to." That was my very first experience in Colorado Springs, drinking craft beer. And I'd gotten away from beer for a while and went to wine. I go back and forth. For me, it's one of those things. Wine, beers. I'll go back and forth easily. I enjoy beer. I really enjoy good quality beer. And it wasn't until we opened the restaurant that I really got into the craft beer. So it's been 7 years that I've really been hitting the craft beers intensely.
Now, you have a degree in culinary arts, right?
Yes.
Now, at the collegiate level, what is the attitude towards beer? I mean, I have no idea how culinary arts, do they even teach beer and wine? Or...
They do teach a spirits course.
Right.
Which includes wine, fine wine, and spirits.
Right.
Really no mention of beer. Now, this was years ago. Now, I don't know what the new curriculum in some of these schools is. I would imagine they're going to have to go this direction at some point, because this is really it. But I mean, even look at a lot of those big chefs, you go to these fancy restaurants.
Right.
They'll have an extensive wine list, 300, 400, 500 wines. Wines that are $70, $80 a bottle and on up.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what do you have for beer? And it's like they forgot about the beer. It's like, okay, you guys just like totally stopped.
But the pinky in the air beer.
Exactly.
That's the blue collar people.
Right, and it's really frustrating. I love to drink wine, but some wine can get overpriced.
Yeah.
This is the nice thing about beer. It's always, Pangea. You take some of these bottles. We sell them for $20, $30 a bottle. Wine, you can't even touch for $30 a bottle, a decent bottle. When you're drinking world-class beer for $20 to $30 for a bottle like that size, it's a bargain.
Right.
Which when I go out, I really look for high-quality beer. It's not there.
Yeah.
At a lot of places. Some places are getting it. So as far as the collegiate level, as far as curriculum as culinary degrees, I would imagine they're going to have to include this soon if they're not already.
You should, you should be a teacher of. Just teach all craft beer course or something.
I should. I absolutely should. At one point, I was adjuncting in a local community college in the culinary arts program, and at the time, they had no mention of craft beer.
Right.
I would actually take some of the beer bottles here and some of the odd spirit bottles I had, some of the rich bottles, and bring them over so they can put them in their class, and they would fill, of course, with colored water.
Right.
But I would bring over some of the neat stuff to get the students a little more experience with the non-big brands.
Now, do you do any home brewing?
I do no home brewing. And it's not even something I'm interested in. I have no interest in doing it.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same ways. It's just kind of like, I like to let the professionals do their work.
It would be interesting. Like if I made 1 or 2 batches, I understand it more. But I don't really, I'm not into the whole. It doesn't fancy me at all right now.
Right.
I've watched people do it. I've tasted a lot of home brew.
Right.
I'm perfectly happy in this position.
Let's Now, what are some of your favorite styles, favorite breweries?
IPA, first of all.
Right.
I love IPAs. And
So you're a hophead.
I'm a hophead. Love the hopheads. Although I like malts too. You give me a good barley wine, nice barley wine, pure heaven. So I like the IPAs. I like the really hoppy, citrusy, aromatic IPAs. Give me a rich porter, good porter. I'm happy. Hefeweizes, I've never gotten into them. The wheat beers, I've never really gotten into them. You know, like the Ommegang Wit, I know it's good.
Right.
I can enjoy a glass, but I won't order a glass. I won't get a second glass. If it's the one beer that's there to drink, I will. And I love all of what we get to stuff. And I love Abbeys. I love Browns, the doubles. Love those.
Right.
And I'm really growing fond of a lot of the blondes. The triples. Those are really awesome beers.
Now, I kind of talked with Kevin about this when I interviewed him, and I guess I've asked you the same question. It's kind of like, you're out there on the floor interacting with customers. It might be their first time here, and they're like, you got all these beers I can't even pronounce, you know. I'm sure you've encountered these kind of scenarios.
I love to step in. I love to, when people look at
what's a good starter beers and things like that?
Well, I've heard first people said, what do you drink? What do you normally drink? Because there's no reason for me to tell them about the stout or about this, that, if that's not the style. So they'll tell me, oh, I drink, I drink Sam Adams, or I drink whatever it is, or I happen to like Fat Tire.
Right.
So then I can create some dialogue with them. Then I say, let's go to the taps and taste some taps. And if they say, well, gee, I don't really know what I drink, because some people just don't know. They don't know if the lager, pilsner, they don't know anything about it. They're just drinking a brand and that's it.
Right.
So we take them to the taps and we start light and work them up. So we'll go, pilsner, lager, and then we'll work them into maybe, a brown ale or an IPA, and then we'll go up the scale.
Right.
And at a certain point, they're going to stop and say, okay, I've had enough. This is too big. Let's go back one step. Or they might take it all the way to the top. And if they say I like Guinness, I'm not going to give them a pilsner.
Right.
There's no reason to start there. But that's the fun part, is turning people on to a new experience.
Right.
When I go out to eat, I love to be told what I'm eating, based upon the restaurant's knowledge. I love to be told what I'm drinking based upon the bartender's knowledge. Turn me on to something new. I want something new. I want to experience, and talk to me about it.
Now, this is a little more of a philosophical kind of nature, and I'd especially be interested in your take. This is a question I ask everybody, is kind of, is there a hierarchy of quality of beer? Like, is it a fact? Like, is taste objective or subjective? And, like, it's always so hard for me to phrase this question. It's like, is there really such thing as, like, better beer? Or is it better to you and me, so therefore, like, it exists as a fact? Like to us, like, this beer is obviously better than Bud Light, but it's because of our frame of reference. But to the average blue-collar drinker, it's like, they're like, oh, I can't even pronounce that, and that's not beer. Like, what I was trying to, it's just kind of like, is there a hierarchy of beer quality, or is it just an individual, like, every individual person has their own hierarchy?
Well, it's totally individual.
Right.
Even as far as the temp, the size of the glass.
Right.
All of this is all individual. Here's the thing that I try to do. Okay, so let's say you like Bud. Let's say you love Bud, and that's it, and okay, I don't have Bud here. I'm going to pick the next closest thing that I can that's going to come from an independently owned brewery, and hopefully from a local as possible. So that's I kind of have a couple other tiers. Even the wines and the spirits I buy, cognac has to come from Cognac, France, because it won't be called cognac. But I'm not going to buy from the big guys. I'm not going to buy from those international conglomerates that they're on the stock market. I'm going to buy from somebody who I can pick up the phone and call the distillery and speak to the owner.
Right.
Even though he speaks French and I'm English, an American, and we're not going to be able to communicate, but I want to be able to pick up the phone and have to know I'm talking to an owner at the other end. That's important to me.
Right.
So if I can't do that, I kind of push these products aside. Right. Relationship is everything to me when I do business. And to be able to, to meet Sam from Dogfish and be able to know that he exists because of his personality on his website and see things. Right. That's awesome. That's what I'm after. You can't do that with Budweiser or the 82 brands that they own or 80-something brands they own. So, if you like Budweiser, you like light, like something like that, let's try to get you into something where I feel comfortable about giving your money to that company.
Right. But do you ever feel like me where you have to hold your tongue and just be like, that's crappy beer, this is so much better?
I do find that stuff. And I take money from people for a living, so I can't tell people that what they're drinking sucks.
Right.
Or their tastes are just totally off. And my job is to say, okay, I've got something. If you drink this, I've got something that hopefully you're gonna love.
I think a lot of it comes down to also frame of reference, especially as a restaurateur, is where your customer base. Well, maybe not your customer base, but let's say more of like the TGI Fridays customer base, of where they're gonna have all the mainstream beers. Then like maybe Magic Hat Sam Adams is like their average drinker just doesn't really have the experience, the frame of reference. Like they don't go to a beer store and buy this.
No, they don't. And thank goodness, because there is a lot of craft beer infiltration into these bigger places.
Right.
And it's nice to be able to go out and see some of these, and I think the chains get it more than the smaller independents.
Right.
Some of the smaller independents are just really stuck in with, okay, it's Bud, it's Michelob, it's Heineken, and and Amstel Light. But you get some of these chains that are really being, because these chains look at the numbers. They see where the numbers are going. They understand they have to get into the game somehow. So Magic Hat's a great start for them.
Yeah.
Things like that, Otter Creek. These are great starts for these chains, and they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Something a little more politically speaking here is, and I'd especially be interested in your perspective on this, is like, what's your opinion of the 3-tier system? Does it work? Does it not? Especially in your position.
The 3-tier system, of the brewer, the wholesaler.
Right. And the fact that at least, I think it's like 48 out of the 50 states by law, the brewery has to sell to a distributor. They cannot sell directly to you, the restaurateur, or to me, the customer. Is that okay? Are you okay with that?
It's what I've dealt with. It's why I was introduced to the business.
Right.
So I don't know the other way. I've never experienced the other way. Personally, I would imagine working in a direct relationship. When I work with a direct relationship with a farmer, it's much better than a product going to sit in a warehouse and coming to me.
Right.
So I would love to work direct relationships with the brewers, with the wineries, right with them, and
Yeah, I know you guys are close with Keegan Ales.
We're very close with Keegan Ales.
Now, but you can't just go up to Kingston and buy a keg off them, can you? Or do you have to?
Well,
are there loopholes? I don't know.
There are some loopholes. There are some things that will allow you to do something.
Because they're small.
But now see, like for instance, Keegan or another brewery has a license with a distributor.
Right.
So really, by law, the beer has to go through the distributor. Now, there's one place I go that does spirits. Now he has a licensed distributor. I can go pick up from the distillery, but the bill goes now to the company, and the company bills me. So I still have to give my money, so the company makes their cut.
Right.
So that's how. So I take the delivery. The invoice gets shipped from the distillery to the distributor, and the distributor then in turn bills me.
Right.
And that's how it goes, which is fair. I have no problem with that. Everybody's entitled to make money, but it would be nice to be able to know that the distiller, the brewer, the winery is getting the full cut, because that's really what it's about. But on the other hand is, the wineries, the breweries, they don't have the capabilities of delivering. So, they have to be able to take the loss somewhere. You're paying for distribution.
Right.
You're paying for salespeople. You're paying for, to be sitting next to Budweiser.
Right.
If you can get in with the Bud vendor, you're going to get a lot more coverage.
Get on their trucks.
To get on their truck, you're going to get a lot more coverage than you going out and peddling your product.
Right.
Should they be allowed to work direct? They should be, without a doubt. If somebody like me goes out of their way, and I don't care about the Bud or the other stuff on the truck, I want the goods.
Right. Yeah, because like a microbrewery could open up across the street, and you'd still have to go through a middleman.
Through a middleman.
Yeah.
Through a middleman. Now, the beer laws are a bit different than the liquor, than the spirit laws and the wine. It's like they're all separated out here in New York. So it does get a little confusing.
Right.
We're allowed to do certain things, and sometimes you don't know if you're allowed. Sometimes you have to call, the state and get clarification. You call the ABC board. They don't even know sometimes. You'll get two different answers. You call and ask the same question. Two different people get two different answers.
Right.
So you always err on the cautious side, especially being in business, because my liquor license would be on the line, so I have to really err in caution.
All right. Last question.
What do you think the future of the craft beer industry is?
I think it's just begun. I absolutely think that this is, you know, something that will never be mainstream, but we've only seen the beginning of
Right.
what the potential of craft beer is in America. That's, you know, I'm 100% convinced that with the whole local movement, shop local, buy local, support local, chefs are getting on board, restaurants. I think it's going to be a really imperative, and I think a lot of customers are going to walk in the restaurants and say, "What's local?" Budweiser's never going to be local.
Right.
That's
live in St.
even,
Louis.
even if the brewery is in Newark and you're in Newark,
Yeah.
that's not really local. People don't think of that as local. They think of the relationship, the direct relationship with the owners. So I think with this whole local movement, this whole green movement, craft beers are really going to be able to shine. Because wines, you know, there's certain states that make great wine.
Right.
But if you're in other states that aren't known for wine, you're
Right.
taking a chance. You're not going to spend $30, $40, $50 on a bottle of wine and take a chance. Every state has phenomenal breweries.
Yep.
So you're really, it's a totally different ballgame, brewery beer versus wine. So local is really where beers are going to shine.
Is there any danger of the market being saturated?
I don't think so. I don't think so whatsoever. I think the market's so undersaturated right now that there's plenty of room for growth. I absolutely believe it.
All right. Well, I guess that about does it. So, thanks, Marcus, for letting
Thank
me
you.
come over to Aroma Thyme. You want to fire out your websites and
Sure.
address, phone number, all that
Sure.
stuff?
www.aromathyme, like the herb, THYME, so it's aroma, AROMA, THYME bistro.com, and from there you'll be able to see a lot of my other stuff, because I have a healthy chef blog called healthychefdude.com. I have a lot of other different websites. I have a wine website, I have a beer website.
It's your YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel, which is Chef H Beer, which you'll find some wine and things on there too, but a lot of it's beer.
Right.
And once you get to some of those sites, you'll be able to really branch out and see a lot of the other stuff I do.
Yep. And yeah, so check out Chef H Beer on YouTube, because you definitely know what you're talking about, and you guys do a pretty succinct, entertaining beer reviews, and Kevin's on with
Yep,
you.
Kevin's on with me a
once
lot of
in a
times.
while.
My buddy Eric is on with me.
Yep.
So get the guy that gets a little more entertaining when he's on.
All right. I guess that does it for this episode, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you next
Cheers.
time. Cheers.